Hi, my name is Robert. This video is designed to give you step-by-step detailed instructions on completing the task at hand. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'm going to be replacing the AC compressor on a Saab 9-3, a 2000 model. This is going to be the quick and easy method. The compressors in these vehicles usually go bad because the clutch wears out and they start making noise, and if you don't deal with them, they'll probably seize up your serpentine belt and may or may not damage the engine. I haven't let one go that far, so I'm not sure. Before I get started, let me say this. I have put several hours into replacing this compressor and putting together this video. So if you can, drop down in the description, hit my link, drop me a couple bucks to my PayPal or my Cash App. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's get started. What we're going to do is take the vehicle to have the AC system evacuated. Get the car home, open the hood, let the engine cool down, open the hood, remove the grill, remove the corner marker light, remove the headlight, then remove the serpentine belt, remove the air snorkel from the air box to the intake plenum. Then we're going to reach down and remove the turbo charge pipe from the turbo to the intercooler. Then we're going to take the AC lines loose from the top of the compressor. Then we're going to jack the vehicle up, remove the wheel, remove the splash guard in the wheel area, go under the vehicle, remove the splash guard under the car on the passenger side. Then we're going to take the bolt loose on the passenger side lower corner of the AC compressor. You need to disconnect the two line ports from the AC system there close to the turbo, and then you can also drop that line connection that bolts to the top of the compressor out down under the car. Then we're going to go back up top, totally remove the two bolts from the air compressor on top. That will allow you to drop the AC compressor down and toward the passenger side a little bit so that you can pull that last bolt all the way out. Then you take the air conditioner compressor back toward the center of the car over the subframe, and that AC compressor will come out of that area between the engine and the subframe. Your new compressor may not fit your line connection. If that's the case, you're either going to have to open up the line connection a little bit, or you're going to have to file down that line connection a little bit. Either way you choose to do it, you need to make sure you don't get any metal shavings in the AC system. Then I actually bolted that AC line connection to the top of the compressor and maneuvered it back up in the car where it belongs. Then I pushed it toward the passenger side, slid that bolt into position, the lower passenger side bolt. Then I hooked the compressor onto the hanging hook that it hangs on. Didn't have to do any modifications or anything like that. I was able to see it. It was really easy. Then that held the compressor in the position. Then I put the two bolts in the top of the compressor, tightened them down, made sure my refrigerant line was tightened down. Then I hooked up the two AC lines under the compressor and put everything back together. The first time I did this job, according to someone else's instructions, it took me nearly 6 hours. The second time I did it, this method took me an hour and a half. So take your choice. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Get that AC compressor done. Here are the tools I used. A pivoting ratchet wrench is nice. 1/4 inch ratchet, 9-inch extension, 3/8 to 1/4 adapter, a 1/4 T25, you probably don't need that, a short extension for a 1/4, 7mm 1/4, 7mm deep 1/4, 8mm deep 1/4, 10mm. You may need a 13. You got a 10 or a 13 to get that bolt off of the top of the compressor lines. 16 for those compressor bolts to the engine, a ratcheting 16, a 13 in the 16 socket, flat tip screwdriver. I use that 1/2-inch ratchet to break the tension loose, and I put a pin in that tensioner, and I had to use a file the line plug down so that it would fit in the new compressor. Be careful if you file that you don't scratch or mar the flat surface of those lines blocked. You will also need a jack stand, torque wrench, 17mm to get the lug nuts off, and anything else you need to do a tire change, along with a pair of gloves and some rag. That's my tool list. First thing we're going to do is open up the hood. If you have a problem with getting the hood open, just back away from the job. It's not for you. Next, we're going to disconnect this battery ground. You disconnect the ground, that deactivates the charging system throughout the car. Disconnected the negative battery cable with a 13mm. It looks like this grill is broke, the corner of it. So I'm going to release this tab here and lift this grill off, get it out of the way so that the headlight can come out. I pulled this grill off, set the grill over to the side. Next, I'm going to reach in there with a T25, take that loose, see if that'll slide out. That's the screw that holds this corner light in. You don't have to screw it all the way out, just a couple of turns so that it could unhook from it. If you screw it all the way out, you might drop it down in the bottom of the car. Then take these two loose. They look like T25 as well. With that one screw out, you kind of massage the light out and disconnect the two plugs. Push that tab there, push the two tabs on that side, unplug that, get it out of the way. Next, take these two out. To get the headlight out, you remove this screw, and then a T25 down there on the side. After you massage that light out, you got to plug there, you got to disconnect, kind of like an O2 sensor plug. And that looks like the only harness connecting this in. And you could put a small screwdriver in that little slot there and turn it, and that'll work that plug out and massage it out as you pull this red part away from the connector. That connector has a track in it. As you pull it out, the plug pulls away from the light. So now I'm going to set these two screws in there, set that screw in there, set that screw in there so I don't lose my screw. Next, I'm going to take this intake snorkel off. You got a flat tip screwdriver or a 7mm socket. Next, I'm going to jack the car up and put a jack stand under here. Right by this control arm looks like a good place to set a jack stand. That subframe looks sturdy enough. You could jack it up here at the jacking point and get that jack stand under there. If you do not have an impact tool, you want to break these lug nuts loose before you jack the car. That'll make it easier for you. But if you got an impact tool, you could go ahead and jack the car, then just knock the lug nuts off with a power tool. Next, I'm going to take this little splash panel loose. It's an 8 here, looks like a 10 there, and an 8 down there. I got that panel off of it. Next, I'm going to take the air guide that goes across the front of the car out. I got 8mm there, 8mm here, 8mm there. Just an assortment of fasteners. I'm going to take those across so I get this out of the way. Well, that was kind of nice. This thing is actually split in two pieces. You can take one half off. Next thing I'm going to do is take this serpentine belt loose. It's kind of on here a really weird way. Let's say we start here from the power steering pump. It goes down under the AC compressor. It comes up over the water pump. Then it goes down under the crank. It goes up over this idler pulley. Then it goes down over the alternator, which is a Bosch back there. Then it comes up on the tensioner. The tensioner, if you come in this way, is right back here, and it's got a square in the top of it, so you could put a 1/2-inch drive in it. If I rock it clockwise, it'll release the tension on this, and I'll be able to knock it off that pulley. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I think there's a way you can pin it right back on this rear edge of it. Pin it when you pivot it forward up high. I got a pin in my pocket. Let's see if my pin fits. A little ABS screw, and it does fit in this hole. So when I rotate this thing clockwise, hopefully it'll pin this open. I'm going to use this 1/2-inch socket. I'm gonna set it down in this tensioner, then I lift up on it and it's gonna break the tension off on it. Then I'm gonna try to pin it. See, I can lift up and you'll see the tension move on the belt. That thing's pretty tight. I'm gonna take 2 hands, one to pin it, one to lift up on it. Went a little easier than I thought. Lifted up on there and had the pin in the hole and put a little pressure on the pin. As I lifted up my right hand, the pin slid in with my left hand finger. Now the belt's loose. Slide the belt off like that. Man, this idler is pretty tight. I don't know if it's supposed to be that tight, but it's pretty tight and it wobbles just a little bit. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to replace that. Next, I'm gonna break all these bolts loose. The system has already been vacuumed down, so there's no refrigerant for the AC system in here. This is the bolt that removes the lines. So I'm gonna take that bolt out so that the system will be disconnected. Then I got 3 mounting bolts on the compressor that I need to take loose so that the compressor can drop down. Let me show you on the new compressor where those bolts are. Here's the contents of the new compressor box. You got the compressor, you got the 2 gaskets for the refrigerant lines. Let me get this out of here. The compressor sits in there like this. You had a mounting bolt here, a mounting bolt here, a mounting bolt down here. You got the activator line that plugs into your harness. This is a cap for the line, so you take this off and then you'll see the plug where the line connect. That bolt I'm getting ready to take off right there, but there's a that this compressor hangs on in the position that you gotta slide it back. And people say it's easier if you don't have your coolant line there to hang that on there. So let's see how that's gonna work. Getting that bolt out was a little challenging. It's almost impossible to get a socket on top of that 13 with that coolant hose in the way. So I put this boxed in 13 on it and pointed it toward the headlight like that, and I broke it loose. I broke it loose again. Then I used my shorty to turn it out a couple turns. Then I was able to reach down there, turn my hand backwards and twist it out. So now that AC line is disconnected, and as somebody mentioned, you can't lift it up far because it immediately hits the water pump hose. Now I'm going to go under the car and disconnect the 2 AC lines. Disconnect the lines here. You got this line here be disconnected and this one here be disconnected. You're better off fitting this part before you put it back in and it not fit. So I'm taking these apart right here. And I'm losing peg oil here. Next, I'm going to take this intercooler charge piping off. You go behind the headlight, loosen that clamp, then you go under the car, and I have a 7mm socket on the other side of that where it connects to the top of the turbo, right there. Unscrew those, get the clamp loose, and maneuver that out. I lift the intercooler piping up through this axis here. Now I'm going to take 3 bolts loose from the compressor that mount them. Another one of your friends on this job will be a pivoting ratchet wrench, 3/8. Bolts on the compressor are 16mm. I broke that first one loose on that side, top driver side. Broke this second one loose, top passenger side. Now I'm going to go down here and take that bolt loose right there. I got this lower bolt turned all the way loose with this boxed in wrench. Broke it loose, turned it out. Now this top passenger side one, I got a universal joint on it, 16mm, and this long extension coming out. I could put a tool on that, get that out real quick, and I turn that one out with my hand. Turning this one out with my hand too, It may come all the way out because there's room up there for it. And then I'll try to drop it down. Before you lower the compressor out, you got to disconnect the wire that comes up past the front of the car behind the headlight and plugs in right there. So you need to unplug this, open up this little pinch right here and unplug that connector. Either way, get it out of there. I undid this clip by reaching in on this side. From under the vehicle here, I was able to lift the compressor up just a little bit, push it forward toward the front of the car and get it off of that hook. Then it dropped down a little and I pulled it toward the passenger side and was able to pull that bolt all the way out of the compressor. Then I took the compressor and pushed it toward the middle of the car and maneuvered the compressor out of that area of the car past the turbo inlet where I had removed that turbocharged piping. The AC compressor sits up like this. I maneuvered it so that I could slide that lower bolt out. So the compressor is out. The pulley on this compressor, you can hear it grinding a little bit. That's why we're here, folks. You need to remove this cap. This is actually the second time I did this job because when I put the compressor in, it wouldn't pull vacuum, so it couldn't be serviced. And the reason is the line connection didn't bolt onto the compressor properly. So the car came back. I had to pull the compressor back out. And I'm getting ready to fit the lines to the compressor while the line connections are out. These ridged areas here are not fitting down inside the compressor. The large one falls in its hole fine, but the small one doesn't fall in its hole. So I'm gonna try to file that small one down without damaging the flat part. And I'm ready to slide the replacement in. This is the screw guide that people do not like. You gotta get the compressor to fall into position with that. So people do all kinds of things to cut that off. And that piece is up there somewhere. It's a blind guide. It hooks over this thing here. You gotta hook it up over that. Really can't see it from on top. Let's try to see if we can hook it up so we don't have to cut that V out of it. Not to turn that compressor over because it's got the oil in there that'll spill out, which I did, had to clean up. Let me grab the replacement compressor here. So let's raise this into position. That hook I showed you has to hook under here and lock into that and then scoot back and it'll be in position. So when I get it close to in position, I'm going to have to put that lower bolt in place so I don't put it up there and then can't get that bolt in later because that bolt's so long. It has to be in position before you can bolt this to the car. Next, I removed this plug plate that's on top of the compressor. I fitted the lines on there. After I modified the nipple on the lines, I tightened that down. Then I cut this bolt loose from that zip tie because that's the bolt that actually bolts the lines on top of the compressor. I was able to maneuver that compressor up there with the lines attached. This appeared to be a very simple placement with the bolt in there. Come under the car, look past this oil filter, and you can see that little nub thing right there, and you can see the slot in the AC compressor there. So you just pick the AC compressor up. I'm gonna do it with one hand, I think, and look over there, hook it on there, and it's in place. Now I can put those bolts in. Real simple. This splash panel off. I reattach the lines down here. Then I'm gonna slide these screws in, get these screws started. After I get all three started, I'll tighten it down. Tighten up your compressor bolts to the engine. I got all three of the compressor mounting bolts tight. Now I'm ready to plug in the power line. When you plug this wire in, make sure you get this wire all the way in that connection like you see there. There'll be a tendency to leave it hanging out one notch. You want it all the way in. Then make sure it's plugged in properly there. then you can store it back there. Now I'm going to put the turbo charge pipe on and keep it moving. I got the charge pipe on. Next I'm going to put this belt in place here, here, and around there. Next I'm going to put this headlight in, plug the plug in, take the screws out of the side of it, position it in place, screw it in, and then put the side marker light in. The belt I'm going on with, that's a good thing. I like Continental belts. That's the belt that came off. You got to start the belt over here and loop it over the crank and the other stuff. It goes on, I don't know, kind of like a horse or something. There it is, how the serpentine belt is routed on this Saab 2009-3. It's a 2.0 turbo. Top right power steering pump goes down to the AC compressor, goes up over an idler puller, goes under the crank, up over another idler pulley, under the alternator, then up over the tensioner pulley. Now that I have the serpentine belt in place, now I'm going to lift this up, pull that pin out, and let that tension on this serpentine belt. Now that there's tension on the belt and it appears to be on all the pulleys properly, I'm going to go ahead and put this air duct back in. Air filter is in this box. You can always check the air filter, make sure it's clean, don't need to be replaced. Now you come down here, put this splash guard back in place. I put the air guides back under there. I'm going to put the grill on and I'll be done. We are ready to fire this thing up. Put my face out of the way of the serpentine belt. Go ahead. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.